Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, today we are here to talk about something that weighs heavy on our hearts and minds, the battle for our souls. It's a battle that many of us don't see coming, a battle fought in the shadows, where the enemy operates in subtlety, disguising his true nature. Today I want to shed light on 7 distinct signs that a man may be sent from the devil, a deceptive force meant to lead us astray, derail us from our purpose, and cloud our vision. But by understanding these signs, we can protect ourselves, our families, and our communities from being deceived. We live in a world where ambition is often celebrated. Ambition is the fuel that drives individuals to achieve greatness, to build empires, to provide for their families, and to make a positive impact on society. But when ambition is twisted and fueled by selfish desires, it becomes a dangerous force. A man driven by selfish ambitions has one goal: himself. His desires and actions revolve around personal gain, regardless of the cost to others. This is one of the clearest signs of someone who is not sent with good intentions, but with a purpose to destroy. Selfish ambition seeks to elevate the individual at the expense of the community. A man consumed by selfish ambition views others as tools to be used, not as equals or companions on the journey of life. In his mind, people are disposable, and their value is tied only to what they can offer him. Whether it's in the workplace, in relationships, or in society at large, his focus is on climbing the ladder of success, even if that means stepping on others to reach the top. We've all encountered this type of individual, the one who has no time to listen, no desire to share credit, and no interest in empowering others. They only seek to elevate themselves. These individuals can sometimes disguise their selfish ambitions behind a mask of politeness, charm, or even generosity. But once you scratch the surface, you'll find that everything they do has a hidden agenda. Whether it's gaining favor, securing power, or ensuring their own success. Think about the corporate world for a moment. How many executives and business leaders who we are told are visionaries make decisions based on what's best for their bottom line, not on what's best for the people they're meant to serve? In this environment, people are often treated as commodities. Buying, selling, or firing employees becomes part of the strategy to make more money. If they get in your way, they're discarded. The devil works through these selfish ambitions, using them to create environments where greed and power dominate and compassion takes a back seat. Selfish ambition is about taking, not giving. It's about making sure you're always at the front of the line, even if it means leaving others behind. A man who is driven by selfish ambition will always focus on his personal desires and neglect the needs of others. The devil's intention is to use this ambition to sow discontent, resentment, and anger. By focusing on oneself and disregarding the needs of others, we slowly begin to erode the unity and cooperation that are essential to a thriving community. Where there's no concern for others, there's no true growth, only division. Take, for example, the toxic workplace environments many people experience. There are individuals who climb the corporate ladder by stepping over colleagues, using them as stepping stones rather than lifting them up. They will take credit for others' hard work, spread false rumors to tear down others' reputations, or sabotage projects in order to ensure their own success. These behaviors are fueled by a selfish ambition that seeks to destroy others' progress for personal gain. This is not just a workplace issue, it can infiltrate every aspect of our lives, from our families to our friendships. When a man is driven by selfish ambition, his path will always lead to loneliness, because true relationships are built on trust, shared values, and mutual respect, not on what you can take from someone. The second sign of a man who is sent with ill intentions is the one who sows discord and division. The enemy knows that if he can tear people apart, if he can divide families, communities, or even entire nations, he will weaken the collective strength. This division doesn't always look violent or aggressive. Sometimes it's subtle, creeping in through whispers, rumors, or half-truths. It's in the way he speaks about others, how he stirs up conflict, or how he creates an environment where people can no longer trust each other. A man who sows discord is not concerned with unity, peace, or progress. His primary aim is to create confusion and chaos. He thrives on tension, and he is often found in situations where arguments, misunderstandings, or strife are rampant. He might take advantage of a disagreement between two friends, subtly adding fuel to the fire until that minor conflict turns into an all-out feud. Or he may play on insecurities, planting seeds of doubt in the hearts of those around him, making people question each other's motives and loyalties. The devil works through discord to erode relationships. A divided community cannot stand strong against adversity. Think about the world we live in today. We are surrounded by division. Racial division, political division, social division. It's as if the very fabric of our society is being torn apart. How often do we hear about people who, instead of building bridges, work tirelessly to highlight differences and accentuate the things that separate us? The devil knows that if he can exploit our differences, he can make us enemies instead of allies. Even in our families, division can creep in. It could be a brother against a sister, parents arguing over petty issues, or a friend betraying another. A man who sows discord takes pleasure in this turmoil. He loves seeing people fight, argue, and tear each other down because it distracts them from their purpose. When families are divided, they are less effective at supporting each other, less able to work together to overcome life's challenges. When communities are divided, they lose their power to stand up for what is right and true. Look at the impact of divisive leadership in history. There are countless examples of rulers and figures who have manipulated people by pitting them against each other. This tactic is effective because it makes individuals focus on their differences instead of their shared goals. In such environments, unity and cooperation become impossible, and the group's strength is crippled. The devil's aim is always to divide. He knows that when people come together, when they work in unity, they are unstoppable. The Bible reminds us that a house divided against itself cannot stand. When we allow division to creep into our relationships, our workplaces, and our communities, we are giving the devil exactly what he wants: weakness. We must be vigilant and watch for the signs of division in our lives and take action to restore peace and unity wherever we can. We must remember that unity doesn't mean uniformity. It means working together despite differences, respecting each other's opinions, and striving towards common goals. The man who sows discord seeks only to destroy that unity, to prevent people from seeing their shared humanity, and to replace cooperation with hostility. A manipulator is not someone who seeks to build genuine relationships. Instead, he seeks to control, deceive, and exploit others for his personal benefit. He uses charm, lies, and guilt to shape those around him into tools for his own purposes. This type of man will make you believe that your success, happiness, or well-being is only possible through him, that you are nothing without his guidance or approval. The devil uses manipulation as a powerful weapon to weaken the spirit, distract the soul, and make people feel powerless, all while giving them the illusion of control. Manipulation is one of the most destructive forces because it often goes unnoticed until it's too late. The manipulator doesn't use brute force or direct threats. Instead, he whispers subtle lies and creates dependency. He plays on your weaknesses, fears, and desires, creating an environment where you feel indebted to him, constantly seeking his approval, always bending to his will. But make no mistake, This man is not a leader. He is a puppet master, controlling every movement, every thought, and every decision of those he ensnares. How many of us have encountered someone like this in our lives? Perhaps a friend who, every time they asked for a favor, made it seem like you owed them. Maybe it's someone in your workplace who takes credit for your ideas, but makes you feel guilty if you ask for recognition. Or a partner who uses emotional blackmail, turning every disagreement into a personal attack. These types of people create an environment where you are always giving your time, your energy, your resources, yet they are never truly satisfied. No matter how much you give, they always take more. The devil works through manipulation because it slowly erodes your sense of self-worth. It makes you question your value, your contributions, and your ability to make decisions for yourself. A manipulator doesn't allow you to trust your own judgment. They push you to rely on them for everything, including your happiness. It's a calculated move to create dependence, because once someone is dependent, they are easier to control and exploit. They will do whatever it takes to keep you in a state of servitude, whether it's through fear, guilt, or shame. A manipulator doesn't care about your success or well-being. They only care about how you can serve their needs. They will promise you the world but deliver nothing in return. They may tell you everything you want to hear, but the moment you disagree or step out of line, they will turn on you, using your vulnerabilities against you. This behavior creates an imbalance in relationships, where one party is always in control and the other is always seeking validation. Manipulation also works through the art of distortion, twisting reality to suit the manipulator's narrative. The manipulator will make you question your own memory, your own experience, and your own instincts. You may begin to doubt yourself and feel like you're always in the wrong. This confusion is the heart of manipulation, making you believe that what you know to be true is false, and making you dependent on someone else's version of the truth. Over time, this damages your ability to trust yourself, your perceptions, and the relationships you once cherished. A man who rejects accountability and the truth is a man who cannot be trusted. He will never take responsibility for his actions, nor will he ever admit when he is wrong. Instead, he deflects blame, spins false narratives, and finds scapegoats to carry the weight of his failures. This is one of the most dangerous signs, because it's rooted in the refusal to face the reality of one's own flaws. The devil uses this rejection of accountability to keep individuals trapped in cycles of deceit, preventing them from growing and learning from their mistakes. A person who is never willing to be accountable for their actions creates a toxic environment wherever they go. Their behavior breeds resentment, mistrust, and fear. They'll take credit for successes, but when things go wrong, they point fingers and shift the blame. This creates a sense of instability because no one feels safe when they know that their failures will be used against them and their successes will be stolen away. The man who rejects accountability never learns, and thus he never evolves. He is stuck in a loop of denial and deceit, unable to move forward or improve. In relationships, this lack of accountability creates deep fractures. When a man refuses to admit his wrongdoings, or when he deflects any personal responsibility, it leaves the other person feeling unseen and unimportant. The person on the receiving end of this behavior starts to question their own worth, wondering why they are always blamed for problems that they did not create. Over time, this dynamic erodes the trust that holds relationships together, leaving both parties hurt, angry, and disconnected. The manipulator knows this. He uses this strategy deliberately because once trust is broken, it's difficult to rebuild. The devil's work is often done in the shadows of lies and manipulation, and rejecting accountability is a key element in keeping those lies intact. When a man refuses to accept the truth, It's like pouring poison into a well of potential growth. Accountability is the cornerstone of personal and relational growth. It requires humility and the willingness to face one's mistakes and shortcomings. But for the man who rejects accountability, the focus is always on avoiding exposure, even at the cost of integrity. This avoidance of truth is also a sign of a deeper spiritual issue. Truth is the light that exposes darkness, and rejecting it is a tactic used by those who are aligned with forces of deception. When a man refuses to acknowledge the truth, he is essentially allowing darkness to reign in his heart. He may go through the motions of appearing righteous or virtuous, but underneath, he is living in constant deceit. This is a dangerous position to be in, because without truth, there is no clarity, no understanding, and no way to correct the course of one's life. A man who rejects accountability becomes trapped in his own web of lies. And the damage done will affect not just him, but everyone he interacts with. Truth and accountability are inseparable. Without one, the other cannot stand. When a man refuses to be accountable, he is rejecting the very foundation of meaningful relationships and growth. And the devil rejoices in this because he knows that a life built on lies, without self-reflection, will crumble under its own weight. Rejection of truth is a path that leads to spiritual blindness, where the individual can no longer see clearly or understand what is truly good and right. A man who exalts himself above others often carries an air of superiority, believing that his worth is higher than those around him. This sign of pride is one of the most dangerous, because it slowly chips away at the dignity and respect that should be afforded to every human being. He sees others as inferior, unworthy of his time or attention, and operates under the delusion that the world revolves around his success, his opinions, and his needs. Pride is a poison. It doesn't just affect the individual who is consumed by it, it spreads and infects everything around him. A person who is consistently elevating himself above others isolates himself. For pride creates distance where there should be connection. A man who constantly exalts himself will never listen to the wisdom of others, will never appreciate the value that others bring, and will never admit that he might be wrong. His pride stands as a barrier, preventing him from being open, humble, and receptive to growth. In relationships, this kind of man becomes a dictator, demanding admiration and respect without offering it in return. His conversations are one-sided, often filled with stories of his accomplishments, his opinions, and his thoughts, leaving little room for others to contribute or share. This creates an unhealthy imbalance where others are diminished in his presence, and he stands as the towering figure who expects to be worshipped. His pride demands constant validation, but he gives nothing of substance in return. His behavior will drain the life out of those around him, because they will feel like they are nothing more than tools for his own ego. Pride often hides behind a facade of confidence, but true confidence is rooted in humility, not in putting others down to lift oneself up. A man who exalts himself over others does not understand the power of serving, of lifting others up to their full potential. Instead, he seeks to dominate, to control, and to manipulate his environment so that everyone acknowledges his greatness. He may walk into a room and immediately make everyone feel smaller, as though they are not worthy of being in the same space as him. This kind of behavior is toxic not just to individuals, but to entire communities. Imagine a leader, a man in a position of power, who spends his days walking over others in an attempt to feel superior. He stifles the voices of those beneath him and creates a culture of fear where no one dares to speak the truth or offer a different perspective. The environment becomes one of suffocation, where only those who praise him and align with his every desire are able to thrive. This is the work of the enemy. A man who exalts himself over others is living in rebellion against the principle of humility, and in doing so, he will inevitably destroy relationships and community spirit. A man who actively discourages others from pursuing their purpose is one who has aligned himself with the forces of darkness. He does not want to see others rise, because he knows that when people realize their potential and step into their purpose, they become powerful. They become agents of change, agents of good, and agents of truth. A man who discourages others from pursuing their purpose is someone who is threatened by the light within them, and his mission is to extinguish it before it can ever fully shine. The devil works through this tactic of discouragement to keep people in a state of fear, doubt, and insecurity. A man who discourages others will often mask his intentions behind false concern or advice. He may tell you that you're not ready, or that your dreams are unrealistic, or that the path ahead is too hard. He speaks these words in a tone that feels caring, but the underlying message is clear. You are not capable. You should settle. You should stop striving for more because you'll never get there. This discouragement is insidious because it plays on the vulnerabilities that exist within all of us. It preys on the moments of self-doubt we have when we are taking risks or stepping into the unknown. The man who discourages is often the first to highlight the risks without mentioning the rewards. He'll bring up all the reasons why something won't work without acknowledging the countless success stories of those who dared to try. His goal is not to give honest advice, but to stop you from realizing your potential. Think about the way people are often told to stay within their place or to follow the conventional path in life. How often are dreams stifled because someone in authority told you that it couldn't be done or that it wasn't realistic? The enemy knows that discouragement is a powerful tool to prevent people from reaching their potential. He uses it to paralyze them, to keep them afraid of failure, and ultimately to rob them of their purpose. We see this in all areas of life, whether it's someone discouraging an aspiring artist from following their passion for fear they won't make a living, or someone telling a young entrepreneur that starting a business is a risk not worth taking. Even in families, how often do we hear people say things like, "You're not cut out for that," or "You should just be happy with what you have"? These words carry weight because they tap into the deepest fears of inadequacy and self-doubt. They are designed to keep people from stepping into the fullness of who they were created to be. A man who discourages others is like a gatekeeper, standing in the way of progress and growth. He will try to prevent you from taking the first step toward your dreams, because if you do, you might inspire others to do the same. If you succeed, you might show the world that it's possible to break free from limitations, from fears, and from the chains that have been placed upon you. The greatest tragedy is that many of us listen to the voices of discouragement, allowing others to convince us that we are not capable of achieving our dreams. We allow the words of fear and doubt to define us, to limit our potential. But the truth is, every person has been given a unique purpose, and no one should have the power to take that away. The man who discourages others from pursuing their purpose is a man who is aligned with the forces of destruction, and he seeks to keep others in a state of mediocrity, where they're too afraid to dream big and too afraid to step out in faith. A man who seeks temporary pleasures above all else is not only living in deception, but is also setting himself up for a life of emptiness and regret. His focus is on instant gratification, the fleeting joys that come from material possessions, fleeting relationships, or momentary indulgences. This type of man is caught in the trap of living for the present, for the now, but without any true vision of what his life is meant to be in the long run. The devil thrives in this space, for he knows that when we chase after temporary pleasures, we forfeit our purpose and the lasting joy that comes from fulfillment, peace, and spiritual growth. The man who lives for temporary pleasures is never satisfied, no matter how much he acquires or experiences. He may indulge in luxuries, fame, or even unhealthy relationships, but all of these will never bring him true contentment. The pleasure of the moment is always followed by an emptiness, a void that he tries to fill with the next quick fix, the next high, the next thrill. And yet no matter how much he feeds this hunger, it never gets satisfied. Each moment of pleasure is like a drop in a desert, leaving him still thirsty and desiring more. This man does not see the beauty of long-term growth. He does not understand the power of sacrifice or delayed gratification. He believes that true happiness is found in the quick, the instant, the immediate. But what he fails to realize is that this lifestyle leads only to a shallow existence. His relationships are built on the superficial. His success is short-lived, and his fulfillment is always out of reach. No matter how many indulgences he chases, he finds himself more isolated, more discontent, and more restless than before. This pursuit of momentary pleasures often comes at the cost of long-term goals and dreams. Think of the person who chooses to stay in unhealthy relationships or toxic environments for the sake of immediate validation, only to find themselves trapped in cycles of emotional pain. Or consider the individual who seeks to climb the corporate ladder by sacrificing their health, integrity, or the well-being of their family for the sake of financial gain. The momentary pleasures of success, status, or recognition cannot compensate for the deeper, more meaningful aspects of life that are sacrificed along the way. The devil works through this pursuit of fleeting satisfaction to distract people from the greater purpose that lies ahead. When a person's life revolves around immediate pleasures, they lose sight of the bigger picture, of the legacy they are leaving behind, of the family they are nurturing, and of the inner peace they are meant to cultivate. Take a moment to reflect on the endless cycle of consumption we see in modern society. People spend their days chasing after the next material item, the next adventure, the next high. They look for happiness in possessions, in fame, or in experiences that only last for a brief moment. But once those pleasures fade, they are left empty, longing for more. And when the cycle repeats, their souls become increasingly tired and their spirits become numb. They find themselves stuck in a race they can never win, always trying to fill an eternal void with temporary things. A man who lives for these pleasures is unable to enjoy the deeper joys of life. He cannot experience true love because he is always seeking validation from shallow sources. He cannot feel true contentment because he is constantly chasing after the next high. True joy comes from living in alignment with one's purpose, from dedicating time and energy to things that truly matter: family, community, service, and spiritual growth. But when a man is consumed by the need for temporary pleasure, these deeper joys remain out of reach. The devil uses this insatiable desire for temporary pleasure to trap people in a life of distractions. By focusing on what feels good in the moment, people forget to nurture their character, their relationships, and their spiritual health. The enemy knows that the longer a person remains stuck in this cycle, the less likely they are to discover their true potential. This is why the pursuit of pleasure without purpose leads to destruction. It blinds people to what is truly valuable. Instead of building something lasting, something meaningful, they spend their lives running after the mirage of happiness that is always just out of reach. In a world that values instant results, we must ask ourselves, what is the cost of these temporary pleasures? What do we lose when we choose the quick fix over the slow, steady progress that leads to lasting fulfillment? The true rewards in life are not found in what we can gain for ourselves in the here and now, but in what we can give, how we can serve, and how we can leave a legacy that will live beyond our own time. But a man focused solely on the present cannot see that future. He is too busy trying to fill a cup that can never hold enough. Every day we are given the opportunity to choose our path, one that leads to lasting fulfillment and purpose, or one that leads to empty pleasure and fleeting satisfaction. The path of temporary pleasures may seem appealing, but it is ultimately a path of destruction. The man who lives only for today will soon find that today's pleasures are never enough, and in their pursuit, he loses the very essence of who he was meant to be. The devil's work thrives in this cycle, for it keeps individuals trapped in the illusion of happiness while they remain spiritually bankrupt. In the journey of life, we are often faced with the challenge of recognizing the signs of deception and destruction, even when they come cloaked in familiarity or appeal. A man who exhibits the behaviors outlined, the manipulator, the prideful, the discourager, the one who seeks temporary pleasures, has aligned himself with forces that not only distort his own life, but also threaten the lives of those around him. Each sign is a warning, a red flag signaling that there is more at play than meets the eye. But there is hope. Awareness is the first step in breaking free from the hold these behaviors have on us. When we recognize these traits in others, we can take action to protect ourselves and those we love. When we see these signs in ourselves, we can choose to confront them, to seek transformation, and to realign ourselves with the purpose for which we were created. True fulfillment doesn't come from manipulation, pride, or fleeting pleasures. It is found in humility, accountability, and living a life dedicated to something greater than ourselves. It comes from embracing the journey of growth, from recognizing the potential in others and lifting them up, and from seeking lasting joy that transcends the moment. By choosing to live with integrity, humility, and purpose, we not only free ourselves from the snares of deception, but also become beacons of hope, helping others find their way out of darkness. The enemy works tirelessly to pull us away from our true calling, but we must remain vigilant, discerning, and grounded in the truth. The path may be difficult, but the reward is immeasurable.